Alright, I think it's time we do a little upgrade on the stove. I've been working on stuff for years and years, and it isn't just cars. Give me enough time, and I can figure out just about anything. Usually in my own way and in my own time. This unit here on top of the stove has a little switch that turns the fan on and off. I can never keep quite enough heat in the stove to leave a fan running on it all the time before it blows all the heat off the stove and becomes kind of useless. So we're going to solve that problem tonight, and I guess you're coming with me. And along the way, I'm going to try and supply a little analogy as to what's been going on inside of the government. The first thing that has to be done, or has had to be done, was expose the problem, or where the work was going to occur, to everyone else so that it could actually be done. So first things first, we'll disconnect the power source. Spin the unit into place so that we can get at the side panel and undo everything. I suppose might as well offer a brief explanation. This stuff here is so I can bypass the heat sensor that's inside the fan, because sometimes the stove will get so hot the fan will quit running and I don't get to distribute my heat the way I'd like to. So all that is just in case the fan does its little thing and it doesn't quits running. You hook them two together, boom, the fan starts up again and you can keep blowing heat. And that's the side story on that. But in order to do the work that I'm going to do, I have to get this panel out of the way. A lot of things had to be gotten out of the way before we actually got to this point. Like having to get by the FBI and deal with the things inside the Department of Justice and the CIA and so forth and so on. By exposing what you're trying to get at and what needs to be done. Now, inside of this box are two wires that I've already exposed that I'm going to tie into, so when the fan comes on, it'll put power to that fan and I can blow heat off the top of the stove. Is this what the manufacturer intended? I can pretty much assure you that it isn't, but it's what I'm going to do. Now, in a way, Trump is way ahead of the game because he has the Constitution to work within, and that's supposed to be the law of the land. Something a certain political party in this country seems to have forgotten. But until they can abolish it or do away with it, it's still the law of the land, and that's unavoidable. I am working outside of what would be the Constitution to make something work off of it that more suits my needs and is more efficient. Now, as I do this, I'm going to make a personal observation. It has always amazed me how some people think they're so damn smart. Just because they went to school or got a degree or what have you. yet still call on somebody else to do something else for them when they're not prepared to think outside the box. Because the majority of people in the world would never even think to attempt to do something like I'm doing right now. That's not the way it was made, so that's not the way they're going to deal with it, or whatever excuse not to do the actual work involved, even if it's going to help them out in the long run. It's always amazed me that so-called smart people would rely on somebody else to do work for them that they would never do for themselves. As they call themselves or think themselves more superior than the person who's actually doing the work. It's never really bothered me that much, but lately, I gotta admit, it kinda has been. Because I've taken a lot of shit from people over the years for this, that, or the other thing, as they ask me to do things for them that they would never do for themselves. Then along the way, those very same people have the audacity to try and rub it in my face how freaking smart they are. Well, if you were really that smart, what in the hell did you call me for in the first place? I used to just put up with people like that. Never really have too much to say, as they said stupid shit like, oh, I could do all this myself, I'd just prefer to pay someone else to do it, or I thought you might have needed the work, so I called you, like they're doing me some kind of freaking favor. I can't tell you how many times I have dropped whatever tool I had in my hand and literally walked away and said, fine, then you do it. And it almost always, as a matter of fact, it always goes like this. Whoa, wait a minute, I need you to finish this. I can't do this on my own. Well, I guess you shouldn't have started just talking smack in the first place then. I have absolutely no problem with people feeling good about themselves. As a matter of fact, I applaud it and encourage it. But when you let that become arrogance or a way to degrade others, now we got a problem. Now, I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I didn't make the plan, but I understand the intricacies of how it should work, because the law of the land is the Constitution. And in order to fix all of this mess, and believe me, it's a freaking mess, you have to be willing to work within the framework of the Constitution, or what you'll have when you get done is no longer what the founders intended. Which is fine. if you're looking to build something else besides what you started with. But that's not what being president supposedly is all about. Because when you go to the inauguration and get sworn in, you take an oath of office to serve and defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States. And when people are trying to work outside of that framework, it might take a while, and you might have to do some unconventional or unconventional things to try and get it all back on track. That's why everything was exposed at the beginning, and along the way has been exposed to the American people so that they could understand exactly what we've been dealing with. And at this point, everything has never been more exposed than it is right now. And unlike me, whenever these idiots who are trying to work outside the Constitution try and do something, it never works. And that's the one thing that we have going for us. And it's the one thing that Donald Trump has going for him. They very seldom think things through. They think whatever they're going to try is automatically going to work. When their track record has quite literally proven differently, time and time again. But I'll be damned if I'm going to let anybody insult my intelligence anymore because I went the extra mile and pointed out what possibly could go wrong or the end effect if things don't follow through according to the plan. Just like electricity, there's positive and negative in everything. And if you're not willing to accept that, more than likely, you could end up being shocked by the outcome.